Alright, top 10 criterions plus honourable mentions. So we all look our boutique labels. I'm a stickler for Criterion or Arrow Video in particular. There are a whole bunch of others, obviously, like Eureka or Kino. And so I kind of wanted to detail my top 10 favourite Criterions with some honourable mentions, so it's kind of a top 15. The honourable mentions I'm just going to kind of breeze through. I'm not going to talk much about them. I don't even know how much I'll talk about my top 10 as it is. So I guess we'll just get right into it. Some of them are on the shelf, some of them are over there on the couch. So I guess we'll start with our first honourable mention. We've got Federico Fellini's 8.5. This is mostly notable because it's a nicely surrealist film. There is obviously the benefits of its special features, because there's a lot of things with Criterion. God, I really probably should have listed some kind of a criteria for my Criterion. I don't really have a criteria. Some of them I like the packaging a lot, and I like the bonus features. Some of them I just really like my experience watching the film. In this case of 8.5, it's one that I knew about from that famous image of the guy kind of lassoed like a balloon in the air, because surrealism. Also, given it's a 1963 film, it's like, how did they do that? Because I can often not be smart when it comes to great techniques of filmmaking. This is a very good film, a very good Criterion. It's only Region A, which is unfortunate for my end, but I don't mind that. I don't think I've actually seen many of Fellini's films as it is, so that's kind of just, I feel like that's notable in its own right. I wouldn't say I'm too much of a fan of the cover. It just doesn't strike me as much. I do like the 8.5 and how that's, blow good there, but yeah, I don't know. I guess I understand why they did this for the front cover, but still. Yeah, so that's just one of my honourable mentions. Another honourable mention, this was a pretty obvious one, to be honest. Of course, if you're doing a Criterion collection, it's probably going to be in your honourable mentions, and that would be Kurosawa's Seven Samurai. This, of course, is the excellent 3-hour plus epic. It's like 3.5 hours, 207 minutes. Black and white, it's Japanese, so it's all the things that makes a normal cinema goer go, yuck, more than 2 hours, black and white, and it's got subtitles. Yuck. It obviously has gorgeous packaging. This is the inner digibook of it. I'll put the case down, where you've got the widespread digibook function, which is also very nice. You've got your inner book, which is ever so thick, and I like thick books. And then, of course, you've got your double disc set, which I believe one of them's the film. Yeah, disc one's the film, disc two is the supplements. So it's nice to have a 3.5-hour film on one disc. And I believe it's it might just be a HD restoration. It is a HD restoration. So I don't know if that's specifically 2K, but they haven't noted it. But given that this is also one of the first Criterions ever actually released, given it's number 2, it's questionable as to whether it's actually a 2K restoration. Not actually the second Criterion ever released, but the second spine on the Blu-ray labels, because of course they did laser discs and a whole bunch of others before they did, obviously, Blu-rays. I don't even know what the number 1 is, to be honest, so that's kind of sin against myself, I feel like, but at the same time, it kind of goes to show I don't really care much about the label numbers. The spines. Spines are spines. I only care about getting the film and watching that, so, But yes, this is a tremendous film. Arguably one of Kurosawa's best, but I do like Dreams quite a lot as well, and I've seen Ran, which unfortunately isn't a Criterion, but yeah, I have a whole set of his over here, including Rashomon and Throne of Blood, and Yojimbo Sanjuro, which I've seen Yojimbo, but not Sanjuro. So yeah, you might begin to realise that I'm still one of those collectors who hasn't watched all of his Criterions, because I'm still one of those people who believes that, I don't know if it's a belief, but it's more or less you get them so you can have them in your collection, so you can watch them whenever you choose to, but the question is, when do you choose to watch them? Now, if I lived by myself, but with a theatre room like this, then, yeah, I'd probably watch it, like, right now or whatever. But unfortunately, I live in a household with with dogs that could bark at any time, and I have parents that make noise, and I have brothers that make noise. Luckily, not as much noise, but they're allocated to their own rooms. But still, it's just, yeah, You don't want disturbances when you're watching Criterions if you want to argue that they are high art or whatever. They are just films, let's be honest, but yeah, they're obviously really good films. Next up we have, this one it's a memorable enough film, very memorable in fact, that I haven't actually watched it since. It's another long film, it's a horror, which is the first on my list. Slightly surrealist, which I still like. It's probably my favourite genre is horror, so I like surrealist stuff as well. That's why I'm big on David Lynch. This is a 136-minute horror film. It's Rosemary's Baby, and of course the fact that they have that cover is exceptional. Like, I love it that, as it is, Criterion usually makes their own designs for the covers, but sometimes if it's a film poster that's as, not just attractive, but as memorable and just exceptional as this poster, that of course they'd use it. And yeah, I don't think there's much to say about the supplements. I don't know much about the supplements for this film. I've never really gone into it. I think I got this back when, this is still at Region A, I think I got this back when I wasn't really caring too much for the supplemental features, just to watch the films, so, but at the same time, I'm not always in the mood to watch the supplements after watching a film. If it's a film like, I know I watched Tampopo recently, and I watched the Criterion of that, and watched the supplements for that afterwards. And that was pretty good, same as it happened last night, so, no, it happened one night, right? It happened one night? It's out in the lounge room, so I can't remember. But yeah, like, there are some films like that, currently, if I have the time to, but if it's a film like this, that I didn't get around to watching supplements after it, I'll probably do it on my second viewing. Also, so I can really understand what the hell the film's about. Still in the vein of horror, I was going to go with Cat People, but this one just stuck out more to me because I think it's more iconic of a film than Cat People, which is interesting because Cat People, notably for its, like, the first ever kind of jump scare in horror. But this is Lewis Allen's The Uninvited. I love ghost films. I'm not much of a stickler for modern horror ghost films because, like, Paranormal Activity and shit, where it's like, oh, a demon's running through the house and it's invisible. It's kind of, you know, I don't like that kind of shit. I like classic ghost stories like this and The Haunting, where they really utilize sound effects and colors, which seems weird enough as it is that they're going to use colors. I mean, this is a black and white film to my knowledge. Yeah, it is. But they utilize interesting lighting techniques and stuff to emphasize what the ghost is in this film, as well as, of course, you know, the ghost has more meaning to it than just, oh, it's a demon. It's like the ghost of a person who unlucky in this and whatever the fuck, you know, maybe they were secretly murdered and they want to be redeemed, whatever the fuck that twist is. Same kind of Scooby-Doo crap. But I really like this film. Also, I love the cover to it. But, yeah, I got this maybe a year ago because I was just in the mood for watching a ghost horror film, and this one really did it for me. Of course, it's only a 99-minute film from 1944, so, you know, yeah, it's easy to watch. And then we get to the last of the honourable mentions, which is not easy to watch, and I just watched it the other day because I only just got this in the mail. This is My Bergmans Persona. This is the second film of his that I've watched, the first one being The Seventh Seal. These two are very different in themes, and I understand that. I think I was watching one of the supplementaries talking about this film, or reading a review saying how, you know, his earlier films are more talking about Christianity and God, and obviously a lot more religious stuff. And this one is more about femininity and maternity and that kind of struggle, which I think is, for me, much more compelling, because personally, religious stuff isn't really a big thing for me. I'm okay seeing it thematically, because if it's a theme in a movie and stuff, it can be pretty good, as long as it's used well, not like Man of Steel. But yeah, I really loved this film. It is fucking incredible. I'd heard that it was like a David Lynch film, which, if you've seen David Lynch films, you know exactly what this one's like. And so they kind of, like, predicted the obvious twist. Plus, I do like the cover. Like, I was wondering why they had this particular cover. But then, of course, take out the booklet, which I'll show you in a second. You, of course, have this great internal spread, which has a double DVD and a Blu-ray, because, of course, It just does. This is number 701, so yeah. And of course, this is the cover of your booklet, which you may recognise it as one of the most famous images from cinema, but also from Ingmar Bergman especially. But it's also the image that's on the Ingmar Bergman box set for Criterion, which I would love to get one day, but I'm probably just going to stick with getting the individual films right now because of how expensive that box is. Also, I have nowhere to fucking put it. Seriously, nowhere. But yeah, this one, it's just an interesting film. It's obviously very experimental, and I really appreciate that aspect to it. It's very different in how it communicates its messages. For me, it weirdly feels like a mixture of like Mulholland Drive and Fight Club, or what if, David Lynch did Fight Club. But yeah. So I guess to summarize for Persona, it's definitely one that I'll get back to eventually. It makes me more curious to see Ingmar Bergman's stuff, but I'm concerned I may have seen the arguably best of his works, but it's hard to say. He's obviously a filmmaker who is just very good. So, just like David Lynch, someone who you could watch a bunch of his films and you don't know which one you think is the best, unless you actually think one of them is the best. So now let's get into the actual top 10. Now, this isn't an actual personalized top 10 favorites. Like, there are some of these which I would definitely argue are my favorite from Criterion as a whole, but these are just ones that have really stuck out to me, are the most memorable to me, and maybe some of them have like a place in my heart that's just higgity-diggity-dory and whatever the fuck you call it. But yeah, let's just get into it. I've got some over there, but let me take a look at my list to see which order I'm going to go in. Alright, I'm going to go in that order. Alright, cool. So, arguably, number 10, Fantastic Planet. This one, I just love it because of its colour. This cover is actually really good, and that's why I chose it over the Masters of Cinema one. It actually is broken there, which you can kind of see, yeah. Great, I love when that happens. This is the Region A version. It's a 2K restoration. It's a 1973 animated film that goes for 72 minutes. It is very beautiful of a film, not to mention the obvious. It's animated. It's also French. It's a film that benefits from it being, subtextually about this, it's got these political values and aspects and commentary that runs throughout the whole thing, but you can also reinterpret it as really any kind of human interference of another culture. So that's pretty good. Its animation style is very unique and very interesting. It feels like Monty Python if they went out and did a whole entire animated film that wasn't about people stepping on other people. Literally. This is more symbolically. But yeah, I don't know, not much to say about this one. It's definitely worth watching if you can get your hands on it. Arguably, these could all be on, some of these would be on the Criterion channel if you're able to view that. I can, because I've got a VPN, and I use that to subscribe to it, because of course I'm in Australia, so, the Criterion channel's going to come here anytime soon. I'm not in Canada. Anyway, let's move on to our number 9. Number 9 is Ghost World. This one I picked up because I had read the comic. I'd read the whole volume because there's not much of it as it is. It's a really good short story. I bought it at PAX of all conventions, and so I read it, I loved it, and I, did some research on it to kind of see if there's anything more to it, what the hell the backstory was and whatever, because there was no volume 1 on the book, which is a real plus for me. I like things that are very short and sweet, because I don't like spending too much money on comics. The Walking Dead. And I found out that it had a movie adaptation. I'm thinking, oh, that's how the hell did they pull that off? And it actually is really good. This is a Terry Zwigoff film with, notably, Scarlett Johansson and Steve Buscemi, but my favourite character in it is, of course, Enid, who is played by Thora Birch. She is in American Beauty. I'm very sure she is, at least. This is a beautiful 4K transfer. It's got, obviously, a very interesting cover, and it even has pictures of the main 2 characters on the back there, which you can kind of see, which is very unique for a Criterion. But then, of course, you open it up, it's got this very nicely coloured in disc. This is one I love for its extra features. very much like one I'll be showing you in a bit. Oh, wow. There's 2 books in here. Finally got them both out. It also has a lot of, like, behind-the-scenes, like, images and shit. I haven't watched this since I first watched it, but to be fair, I don't mind that. Sometimes there are films where I feel like I need to watch them a second time as soon as possible or whatever. But this one comes with a comic, because it came from the comic 8 Ball, and it had its own, Ghost World story, so of course it's actually a comic book, which is just kind of its own thing. It's like, it's a new comic done by the actual comic artist from the original, who did the original comics. And then, of course, there is the obligatory thick-ass booklet, which actually makes it all look like what they did was, it makes them... I just love that whole sketch. It's like them from the actual film, but they're coloured in and look like their actual comic book personas and stuff. And it's very interesting to go through this whole thing. It's a good film, I think. I think it's an interesting comic book adaptation as well. Like, it has its similarities to its comic book persona, but it also is unique enough that it's got its own kind of different take, especially having Steve Buscemi's character and stuff like that. So they obviously knew what exact route they wanted to go for the movie, and I think it paid off really well. So I definitely suggest it. It seems like a very weird one to be in the Criterion Collection, but it is an indie film, so it doesn't surprise me at the same time. Oh, next up we have a hard-hitting one. This one's probably definitely one of my favourites, which fucking makes sense, obviously, because one of my top 10 favourites. This is my favourite Tarkovsky film, which you probably already know what it is. That's right, it's Ivan's Childhood. No, it's Stalker. It's Stalker. I haven't seen Ivan's Childhood yet. I have Solaris, but I haven't got Ivan's Childhood yet. I don't have any of his other films. I might watch them on the Criterion channel if they're there, if not. But Tarkovsky's films have obviously cinematic poetry and all this kind of, jargon that you want to spout out. He's a very interesting filmmaker. I'm very curious to see the rest of his films, but I'm kind of daunted to step foot in them. Stalker in particular is a 161-minute 1979 film, which is Russian, so that's already going to bat a lot of people away. I obviously love films with... I love black and white. This isn't black and white, but I'm just saying. I love black and white. I love subtitle films. There's a lot of things I love about those kind of films anyway, so, But Stalker is very different. It's a very transcendent film. It is very much kind of a meditation and a nightmare at the same time. It's a beautiful Criterion, so that's obviously a big plus. It's really hard to talk about this film, to be honest. I've seen it just the once, but it was very interesting when I did watch it. So, and it's very memorable too. It has a very interesting ending as well, if you want to go into detail of that, but I'm not going to go into plot detail for pretty much any of these. So yeah, this one I definitely suggest to anyone. Also, as you could probably see, it has the Region B code, so if you want to get a Region B version of it, you could probably find one on eBay or maybe Fish Pond, but definitely Zavvi. Zavvi has a lot of the Region B Criterions, if you're from any country that has a Region B code instead of a American Region A code. So, there's that. Cool. Alright, let's jump into our next one. Our next one seems pretty obvious. I mean, it is mega gigantic, and it's Region B as well, which is a big plus for me. This is the Criterion Godzilla set, which, as you can see, is kind of like half my size. Actually, it's maybe a third my size. It is very tall. This is obviously a gorgeous set. My film in particular for this one I'm going to point out would be the original Godzilla by Ishihiro Honda from 1954. This is an incredible set, which I'm only going to open the first page of just to show you just how intense it gets. But yes, it has 15 films. I think those are 15, but it does have both versions of the original Godzilla film. It does have... One of them was on a supplementary disc that I had to look for. I can't remember which one it was. Oh yeah, King Kong vs. Godzilla, the Japanese release is on the supplementary disc at the end, not on the disc that actually says King Kong vs. Godzilla. But when you put on the disc that says King Kong vs. Godzilla, it does say, hey, this is the American version. If you want to see the, Japanese version, look for the other disc. So that's nice at least. It's a beautiful set. I keep it on my piano behind the camera because the piano has a little thingy that you can put music on. Given that we don't use the piano very much, I can put this on it instead. So yeah, this one is obviously incredible. I love Godzilla. That's pretty much all that needs to be said there. Of course I was going to get this for its 1000th spine. Yeah. The next one is a trilogy I wish I had have gotten the Region B version of. You have no idea how many times I have seen these films and been like, I wish I had the Region B version. Mostly so I can show my parents. Anatomy of a Murder is one of them. Wish I had have gotten the Region B version instead. This is the Before trilogy. I wanted to get this because, of course, I don't know if it actually has a Region B version, but I'm pretty sure it does. I got this because, of course, it is a remarkable trilogy with a very nicely coloured case. This has all 3 films. Obviously, it's a trilogy. Before Sunrise from 1995, Before Sunset from 2004, and Before Midnight from 2013. They all vary in length between 90 minutes and 100 odd. So, of course, starting from the get-go, you have Before Sunrise. The packaging of this is immaculate. Before Sunrise is the one that has the booklet, which is nice. Then you have, of course, Before Sunset, which is also very nice. And lucky last, Before Midnight. Personal favourite would probably be Before Sunset, I think. I've only seen it the once. I've seen all of them once except for Sunrise. I saw Sunrise the second time because I wanted to rewatch them all, but I didn't end up rewatching them all. But Before Sunrise is still just an incredible, like, kind of love story. These films are ones that it's not the generic plot that you'd probably expect. It's pretty much just, I'm going to talk about Before Sunrise. 2 people meet on the train, and they just keep talking, and then they get off at a station, and they just keep talking, and then they just spend the whole day together, pretty much, including the night, and then they depart, and that's the whole movie. But it's, like, really nice. Like, as much as that's, like, the plot of it, it's really nice, it's romantic, it's got some really good dialogue, really good directing, and really good acting, and, yeah. I still think the second one's my favourite. I think just because... Maybe because it's shorter, I don't know. I don't know why. It's my favourite. I think because of the ending, that's why it's my favourite. So, yeah. So, worth checking out if you can. Next up is kind of an argument between these 2. If I was to say I have a favourite by this director, it might be Rushmore. But for currently, my ones to talk about is Fantastic Mr. Fox and Moonrise Kingdom. Fantastic Mr. Fox because it's the animated film. It has a gorgeous box set, but I want to talk about Moonrise Kingdom instead. So, all the rest of them, Darjeeling Limited and all that, come in just a regular Criterion case. I don't have Bottle Rocket yet from Criterion. I have the Criterion remaster on a Umbrella Australia disc, so I got it for like $10-15, so I don't really care to get the Criterion anytime soon. I do hope to get the Grand Budapest Hotel from Criterion, which is a digibook like this, but I unfortunately have not got it yet because I was hoping there would be a Region B version of it. But there isn't, so yeah, I don't really need a Region B version of it, but at the same time, given that I have the Australian release of it, so it's like not a big hassle. But yes, this is a 2K digital remaster from 2012. I love the cover as it is. I love how the only reference to the actual name is just there on the front, which is nice. Open this sweet little booklet up, take out the, alright, the supplements are in there like that. Has a nice cover showing you all the characters in a kind of cartoony look, which is interesting. I actually copied down the sticker that's had Moonrise Kingdom, because that's what was on the original plastic, as well as, of course, the director approved sticker, which I had noted, had pointed out. One of my subscribers said that you could just cut out the sticker and just put it in there, like slot it in. But it's like some of these don't really require it like that, because like this one obviously has a pocket, which is really nice, with some good supplementaries like the postcard, the little magazine booklet, like newspaper thing, and of course the map, which is I believe double-sided. But at the same time, like, this is luckily one of those where you could do that, where you could just put them all together, wrap them all up in a sweet little bow, including the stickers, but it's like, yeah, but you could just stick it on the inside because it has enough empty wallpaper space. Some of them don't, like a few of my David Lynch ones where I've put the sticker on the inside of one of the booklets inside it. So yeah, I still have this stuck on. I don't need it stuck on anymore, but I don't really care much to look at the background underneath it, so yeah, I don't mind it. Also Region B, which is nice. So yeah, I think this is probably one of my first Wes Andersons. I know Grand Budapest was the first one of his I watched in cinema, and it's arguably my favourite, but I still really like Rushmore in terms of just more of a character focus and stuff like that, but obviously Grand Budapest is very nice. Style over substance to a definite degree, but I don't mind. I like Wes Anderson. The next one is an interesting one. The next three are my actual top three favourites. This one's an interesting one because obviously it's a Kubrick film. This is Paths of Glory. This is a very, very good film. I've actually watched most of the supplementaries as well, especially the Parkinson television interview from 1979 with Kirk Douglas. This is an 88-minute long 1957 black and white war film by Stanley Kubrick. It's probably, I think it's probably the only earliest of his films that I'll probably enjoy watching. I do have The Killer/Killer's Kiss, which I don't know why it doesn't say both of them on the cover. Anyway, I haven't watched those two yet. I haven't even watched his earliest one, which is Fear and Desire, which is actually the Library of Congress version. Anyway, I really love this film. It was exceptional to watch it the first time I did. I only watched it, I think, this year, in fact. I can't say much about the inside booklet, which is probably a, diss on me, got some nice stuff to it, though. But it's definitely as a film, it is very interesting, very impactful. Like, war films as it is, seems like a genre where you can do a lot of easy stuff. It could be really easily an exploitation, or it could be a good drama film. This one's obviously a drama film, much like, say, Saving Private Ryan, or Schindler's List, or something else that isn't Kubrick. 1917 to some degree as well. Like an interesting display of what war is like, for the people involved, especially. This obviously isn't a Pearl Harbor, thank God. But yeah, ultimately this is a very good film. If you're a fan of Kubrick, I definitely suggest watching it. If you're a fan of Kirk Douglas, I'd especially suggest watching it. But if you're interested in just kind of an interesting black and white war film, this is your one. Now my dog is barking, so I'm going to go check what the hell's going on. Cool, and we're officially in my top three, and these three are actually my top three favourites. So I'll start with, I think, maybe the most bizarre one that's in my top three actual favourites. This one I wanted to display last, but I guess I'll display another one last because it's more interesting. This is Carnival of Souls. I believe this is the first Region B I actually got. It is a 4K digital transfer, and to be fair, this is one of the best 4Ks I've ever seen. It actually genuinely looks like it was filmed yesterday. That's how goddamn crisp it is. This is a very bizarre film. I got it mostly because of the cover and the name. Looked and sounded pretty kooky, pretty up my alley. Still kind of on that vein of kind of ghost story stuff. It is a surrealist horror film, more or less, but it focuses itself more as a drama with surrealist aspects, which I really liked. It's only 78 minutes. It's a 1962 black and white film. It is absolutely incredible and wholeheartedly worth watching. To make it creepier for you, I'm going to show you what the inside poster looks like, and if you're a Criterion person, you know that Criterion comes with posters most of the time, or booklets. Sometimes their posters are, of course, something like this, which is quite a large essay. Then you have the actual poster element to it, which is this. You got the top half with all the people dancing. Because of how folded up, it's kind of hard to look at, but then, of course, you got his face. It does make you think, I'm not going to put that on my wall. The amount of times I get posters in these things, and my dad's like, oh, you're going to put that on the wall? I'll be like, no. But also because they're also essays, so it's like it doesn't really appeal to me to put it on a wall. Say like maybe the only Criterion one I would put on the wall would maybe be the one from the Night of the Living Dead. But that's also got an essay on the back, so it's like, there's no real point. This is just one of my favourites. I've only watched it one time, but holy hell does it stick with me. It is very memorable, very interesting, very it is actually pretty scary in its own right. But ultimately, this is just as a beautiful 4K transfer. I definitely use this as like a, hey, outside the Region B aspect, hey, this is a really good Criterion. I'd wholeheartedly suggest it to anyone. So, yeah. It is... Yeah, this is, what does it say? Made by industrial filmmakers on a small budget, the eerily effective B-movie classic Carnival of Souls was intended to have the look of a Bergman and the feel of a Cocteau. Cocteau? I guess that's how you pronounce that. And with its strikingly used locations and spooky organ score, it succeeds. Yeah, good horror film. Now let's get into my top 2. What's next? This one is probably the culmination effect of all of them. So I guess rounded up to all of them. This is Eraserhead. What other David Lynch ones am I referencing as well? Mulholland Drive I don't have yet, but I have the 4K remaster as it is on a Studio Canal disc, so no harm, no foul there. I have Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me and Blue Velvet. I'm probably going to get Elephant Man, but I have the 4K Studio Canal disc with a slip cover, so I don't really know if I'm going to get the Elephant Man anytime soon. But as a film that I didn't have already, and that this was the only way for me to get it, Eraserhead is exceptional. I've seen this film several times, twice on this Blu-ray alone, which is a Region A. Obviously, the front cover is gorgeous. It does come with a very, very thick book, which I have read, but I didn't actually need to read this version because I already had the book that it came from, which is Lynch on Lynch. It has an interesting double spread, and of course, that with the disc. I didn't actually, I'm pretty sure mine came with the sticker saying director approved. I must have thrown it out with the rest of the stuff because I don't have the sticker anymore. At least I'm pretty goddamn sure I don't. I may have put in the booklet, but I can't really... Well, I can't see it anywhere, so I can't assume that I did keep it at all. So that's a disappointing thing, but because, of course, I got the other Criterions, I realized that it doesn't really matter because the stickers are all the same. Like, I know it's a director-approved one because it's goddamn David Lynch, so it makes a lot of sense. I love David Lynch. This is my favorite of his films. So to have this is just great, and I very much cherish it. It's one that I don't mind that it is in Region B, because it's not like I'd really be showing my parents, because it's like, what the fuck would they even think of this film? So yeah. And last but not least, that's my phone. We have my first ever Criterion, the first one I ever watched, the first one that made me realize that Region A was a thing, so it made me get the Region Free player. The one that made me realize that some films are just kooky crazy. It's one that I watched because of a podcast that I was subscribed to at the time. It was the first film they were actually reviewing, and of course it was noted as the Japanese version of Evil Dead 2. This is the 1977 film, which is a good year for films when you think about it. Eraserhead, Star Wars. It's an 88-minute Japanese film. It is Hasu. Of course, it is pronounced Hasu, not just house. I've seen this 3 times now. Pretty sure I've seen it 3 times now. It's also on the Criterion Collection on the Criterion site, so I don't know where I'm pointing to. I'm pointing to the internet. Go check out the internet. It's up there somewhere. So if you want to watch this but can't get the exceptional cover of the Blu-ray, I'd wholeheartedly suggest it on the Criterion channel. This is Nobuhiko Obayashi. He's probably the most famous film. Unfortunately, he passed away this year. I was going to do a video essay on this film, but I don't really know what to say about it, to be honest. It's just in the back of my mind as something I'd love to talk about for a video essay. Like something proper where I can show you how fucking crazy the visuals are. But yeah, ultimately this is a film that's, outside of the very obviously brilliant cover, it is just something completely different. And it's this, just like stuff like Stalker and Ghost World, really goes to show just how crazy Criterion can be with their choices. You know, you can get the most obvious ones like Wes Anderson, but then of course you got stuff like David Lynch, which is kind of feels obvious with like Tarkovsky, you know, a high-profile director in their artistic landscapes. But then you got something like this, which is just bizarre and honestly exceptional. So yeah, I definitely suggest checking out all of these that I've just listed as my top 10 favorites. In terms of supplementary features, I haven't actually gone into any of them yet. I think I may have gone into one of them, but it was so long ago I can't remember, and I haven't really read the booklet too thoroughly either. I know I'm really doing a good job selling you the supplementary features, but I want to sell you the film over the supplementaries because it's a Criterion. You're probably going to get it for the supplementaries for the most part anyway. I believe Masters of Cinema, the Eureka Cinema, did a version of this as well, so you can get that on Region B if you prefer. So yeah. But yeah, this is an exceptional film and it is my favorite Criterion. So that's this video. So, of course, I have a plenitude of Criterions if you want to see my whole entire Criterion collection that isn't as present now because, of course, Persona was added to it recently, and I think maybe a few others were added recently, like Tootsie and whatever. But you can check up there for my Criterion collection, Part 1. There was a Part 2 that came after it, which was like 2 days later, which included the Godzilla set. There was also a video for the Godzilla set. You can check here for the film shelf playlist, which will involve anything I talk about with this goddamn shelf, but it also has all of my collections, Criterion, Eureka Cinema, yada yada yada, and just other videos I've done talking about films. And even my David Lynch collection, if you want to see me go into more detail with Eraserhead and Blue Velvet and all those from Criterion. And that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this, feel free to like, share, and subscribe for more. What are your top 10 favourite Criterions? I'd like to know, because they might be on the Criterion channel, or I might have them here on my shelf, and I haven't watched them yet, so I haven't considered them. Which is always a problem when I make a video like this, because I'm like, it sounds so definitive, but I could watch one Criterion and be like, there we go, we got a brand new Criterion. And maybe, yeah, I shouldn't have had a top 10 Criterion if I'm not even going to allocate time to talking about the supplementary materials. But at the same time, I don't always think that's so overtly necessary. The only one I've really gone into such detail for the supplementaries would definitely be Ghost World and Eraserhead. So, yeah, that's just how it be. So, yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. Again, playlists are here. You can subscribe probably around my Godzilla t-shirt here. And we'll see you next time. Adios. I wonder what top 10 I should do next.